We get in this huge argument. It's early in the morning. It's foggy. I just walk away from him. F-650, 30-foot bed on it. It's coming across our yard. I didn't see it in the fog and I get hit by it.
Welcome back, investor, to another episode of the Passive Income Adventures. We have Garr Russell on today. And Garr and I were talking before the show about how basically this is a lifestyle show where we want you to go on more adventures and we teach you how to pay for it. And Garr has got quite a program today calling in from Lake Okeechobee, Florida, where we're going to have our throwdown about who lives on the best bass and crappie fishing lake in the country. I say it's Lake Fork where we are. He says it's Okeechobee where he is. But, you're going to definitely want to stick around till the end to find out who wins on this one. Thanks. Welcome on the show, Garr.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk with you.
Yeah, me too. We had a ton of crossover when we first were introduced, and I thought, man, this is going to be a great episode because we're both full-time RVers in the RV industry. We just bought our first RV park. We're living in an RV full-time. We got a bunch of kids that we're trying to homeschool in a tiny RV, and I love the story that you're telling and the experiences that you've had and how you kind of shifted over to doing this as a business. And I think that that's one of the messages we really want to send on our show is when it's time to trade time for money and hustle. So we can make more money, so we can invest more money, so eventually we'll be financially free. But so many of our listeners are still kind of in that hustle, trading time for money phase. And if we just talk about how great passive income is, they get a little frustrated. Like, hey, how am I supposed to get there? So I love what you have got going on to help our entrepreneurs become better entrepreneurs or give W-2 people kind of a side hustle idea. So how about you tell us a little bit more about what you do, and then we'll kind of shift over into your background.
Yeah. So basically, what we are is we're a property management company, and the property that we manage is other people's RVs. So, there's over 12 million RVs sitting around the country. Most of them are doing just that, sitting. There's not many that are blessed to live the lifestyle that we're living. And so, with that being said, an RV is just sitting around. There's a whole blue ocean of RVs that we're constantly rolling into our management program and putting them to work and turning that idle liability into an asset for the owner and getting a really good commission doing a good management fee. Most property management companies, you charge about 7 to 12%. We get over 40%. So it's a fun business model.
Wow. So I'm excited to jump into and hear more about the different layers and levels people can get involved in this because they can go all the way from just, I got an extra RV I want to rent out, let you guys do it for me, all the way to being able to open up their own franchise where they're doing this as a side business. So before we jump into that, can you tell us a little bit more about your background, your business background, your personal story about how you kind of ended up where you are right now with this business?
Yeah, so I've been an entrepreneur. I believe you're born an entrepreneur. Like it's in you from the day you're born, and you begin to discover and uncover that as you grow up. And my first realization of that was actually in fifth grade. And I don't know if I shared this with you. I actually just published a book called My Real Estate Story. That's on
Oh,
Amazon, and it shares my entrepreneurial journey from fifth grade to present day. And basically, my first business idea was in wheels. It was lawnmower business. And I went to my dad, who was not an entrepreneur. He was an employee. And I said, Dad, I need $500 because I'm going to buy these lawnmowers and then I'm going to pay these kids around the neighborhood to push them around. I'm going to go around and get accounts. And basically, my dad's response was, Son, you're lazy.
oh,
And hey, the power of words, it really was in that moment, as actually kind of set me on a course that I didn't realize till later in life. Obviously, in fifth grade, I didn't know the definition of the word entrepreneur, that I was an entrepreneur. It wasn't until I got fired from my job in 2008 for sharing my faith that I was kind of shoved into my full-time entrepreneurial journey. That is kind of how things started. And one story to the next. When I got fired from my job in 2008, I started a credit counseling business. And it's just so cool how a lot of businesses arise. It's not like you wake up one morning and you say, Oh, I'm going to start a credit counseling business. What had happened was I gave my life to the Lord in 2003. And when I did that, I had a whole bunch of mistakes to basically clean up. I had bad credit and debts and creditors and 400 credit score and all. So I went to the library, started getting books and fixing up my credit and learning how to talk with creditors and building positive credit and all that kind of stuff. So I did that. Then I got fired from my job. And then I kind of fell into, well, I can help other people fix their credit. I did all this on my own. And that was kind of my first official, which this is a whole nother story. This is my first official legal business that I
yeah.
started as an entrepreneur, was a credit counseling company. And then kind of fast forward through that as most entrepreneurial journeys go. I feel like if you're an entrepreneur, you kind of progress naturally into real estate. I don't know. It just seems to always like all my entrepreneurial friends, it's like they just eventually like that's the next thing you realize as you're growing as an entrepreneur. Oh, I should start buying real estate or I should start investing in real estate. So that was kind of
Yes.
my next thing. I started buying rental properties and then multi units and then Airbnbs and this and that. And then I fell into my next adventure, which is my RV adventure that I'm currently in.
So I want to hear more about the RV adventure, but I would love if you would focus on how you paid to be on the road now, because we've been watching the full-time RV community for probably 20 years. I've been bugging, bugging my husband to go on a nomad adventure where there was an Airbnb or just living cheap in Europe or Mexico or something. And so we've just been looking at these options of nomad lifestyle for quite some time. So I have one of my best friends, a former boss of mine. They've been living in their RV nearly 20 years and just traveling full time and writing articles for nomadic lifestyle magazines. And so we've been watching this, and I feel like one of the most common questions you see on these RV forums for people who want to live full time is how do I pay for this? And passive income comes up a lot. And it's coming from people who want to go travel full time, but they're kind of broke. And I hate to burst the bubble a little bit and say, like, passive income doesn't start from nothing. There's a difference between a hands off business that's generating income with you only having to work part time versus true passive income, which is generated from compounding your money. Like you make money, you invest it passively, and then that compounds. And I feel like how to pay for this lifestyle has been a huge sticking point for a lot of people. And it's not really any cheaper than living in a house once you add everything up. So, can you talk to us a little bit about how you came to the point where you're like, hey, let's go live in an RV full time? You don't right now, but you did for a little while. How you came to that decision and then how you decided, how am I going to pay for this?
Yeah, so we kind of started off slowly. We're in Michigan. We ran our credit counseling company was pretty much on autopilot. We had systems and processes and employees in place. Real estate, very similar. And then the RV business is where like I was actually hands on doing the work, doing walkthroughs, fixing issues, this and that. But then come winter time, basically everything stops. So we were presented with that. The first winter we had that opportunity. Hey, let's hit the road for a little bit. So we went for 10 weeks. So that was something we were easily able to do to go for 10 weeks. And we had our other businesses already in place. We had done the work, like you had said, we had systems and processes and income. And then the following winter, we decided we want to go longer. So then you start thinking of a little more strategically. You're like, okay, well, I've got a mortgage. And if I'm going to go like 5, 6 months, like as soon as my toes start getting cold till June, now what am I going to do? Because like you said, it's RVing lifestyle, especially the way my wife likes to RV. She's
Yeah.
not a state park girl. She's like a KOA resort girl, or she's we're in California staying at a KOA that's like costs as much as my Airbnb does a night. Heck, you pay just as much to do a couple loads of laundry as you do to take the whole family out to dinner. So it can definitely get expensive. And so then we decided that winter, we're like, okay, well, we're gonna have to rent our house out. That's the way that it's gonna make sense. Where we're not just draining money. We can be on the road and feel okay about it, like we're not being bad stewards of our finances. So that's what we did. And then when we went full time, then instead of just selling our house like a lot of people do, we sold our house on land contract. So that there for us, we got a huge down payment. So figured it out properly to where we could sell it right around tax time where people are getting large chunks of money. So we got a big down payment. And then we structured the deal to where not only are we covering our mortgage and everything, we're making X amount of dollars per month. So that was all figured out. And then by that time, we had several locations. We had created, well, at that time, we called our business in a box. So we had several other locations around the country that were generating us year round revenue.
You had your business up and running, you were able to kind of finance it from that standpoint, and then what changed in your life when you were able to kind of come back and say, I want to get this into this next real estate business portion? Were you still living in your RV at the time, or kind of to walk us through the process of the birth of Fireside?
Yeah. So Fireside actually started in 2016. And it's cool how it started, kind of like my credit counseling business. It's like you just kind of fall into some of these adventures of life as an entrepreneur. So the reason Fireside started was I had bought my wife a RV for our 10-year wedding anniversary. We go to Grand Haven, Michigan. We set up on Lake Michigan and I think it's perfect. And oh, I got her this beautiful RV. And she basically walks out of the RV and says she was headed home. And I was a little confused. I'm like, okay, you're headed home. Like you forgot something? She's like, no, I'm headed home. I don't like this. But fast forward, the reason she was pregnant, it was the middle of summer, all those things. But in the
Mhm.
moment, I thought, oh crap. I just bought my wife a RV for our wedding anniversary and she doesn't like it, like hubby failure extreme. And so that was right there, that moment of pain, looking like, okay, well, I've got this RV payment. I've got a wife who does not like the RV. I need to figure out how to get this RV to pay for itself. And so literally I just went on to Craigslist. I don't even know if that's still a thing. I went on to Craigslist and listed my RV for rent. Well, I have rental properties. I know how to rent stuff out. And within a couple hours, I had inquiries coming in. Hey, we're going here, we're going there, family get together. And just the light bulb clicked. And fast forward. So that was July. Our Isabella number 4, she was born the end of August. All of our kids
Mhm.
were born by C-section. So you kind of get in a rhythm. It's like, here's your appointment. You check in your room, C-section, an hour later in the room, you're chilling, everything like you know the process. So literally, this is me as an entrepreneur. I get my wife and Isabella back in the room. I'm like, all right, love, you're all settled in. Everything's good. Okay, great. I'll be right back. She's like, be right back. Where are you going? And I'm like, remember that time you left me at the campground? No, I didn't say that. I'm like, "Oh, I'm going to close on these 4 RVs I just bought." She's like, "What? You just bought 4 RVs?" I'm like, "Yeah, honey, you see how good the RVs right now." And I'm like, "I'm in real estate now. This is my new business." I don't think I said real estate at the time, but sounds funny. And so literally I went and bought these 4 RVs, but within a couple weeks, God quickly showed me that's not the model. Don't go buy these depreciating assets. And right now other
I
people's
know. It was rough for us when we bought this RV when we're not to hijack the story here. It was really tough when we were RV shopping and truck shopping and how much money we were going to have to spend on a depreciating asset. And I couldn't choke it down. So we ended up with a much older RV that was, I'm not going to say fully depreciated, but had lost most of the value and the rate of depreciation has dramatically slowed. So we're living in an older RV because I just couldn't choke down how much the value was going to plummet when I'm used to buying assets that appreciate homes and multifamily and all of that. And so I love that you brought that up because a lot of people are struggling with that. And I wanted to ask another question because one of the hesitations that we have about renting out our RV or doing a rent to own or something out of we move out after we move out of it is that just the durability of them and how the renters can be kind of tough on them. So I'd love it if you would touch on that kind of. Sorry, keep going with your story, and then I would love to get into that aspect of the objections or hesitations that people might have.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's definitely a legitimate concern on both ends. The depreciation of it, which we've got some strategies that we put together because we have investors that we work with. And literally the main reason they're doing this, it's all about offsetting their taxes because
Mhm,
they'll take that depreciation on the tax side to their advantage. But
mhm.
the depreciation as far as the quality of how these RVs are built and the wear and tear on them, heck, even as a full timer, I mean, being in there, you're moving around. I was like, oh man, I just knocked that whole door off its hinges. All I did was turn it around. Like
Yes.
it's funny too, because my RV, most of the damage in my RV is actually from me, like
Yeah.
not my renters. But yeah, that's definitely very valid concern. When there's insurance and deposits and all that kind of stuff, and there's going to be wear and tear. And we've actually been switching our business model recently as far as during the pandemic, RV sales just skyrocketed. Everybody went and bought
Yes.
an RV. And now you go on marketplace and it's just flooded with RVs for sale.
Mhm,
Unfortunately, they're not worth what they owe on them because the dealerships saw the trend and they put up together all these promotions, 0 down, no payment for 6 months, 20-year financing. I mean, you can finance
mhm,
a nice drivable as long as you can a house. And so we actually just created a program. It's not even on our website yet. We're literally finishing it. And we're calling it the Principal Paydown Program, where basically
mhm,
somebody that's upside down on their RV, put them into a plan of helping them rent it for 1 to 2 seasons, pay down
mhm,
that principal, and then we help them exit the RV. Because that's what a
mm,
lot of people are looking to do. It's like, hey, we can go to Mexico again, or we can use our timeshare again, or we can whatever again. And people are basically stuck with these RVs. And they're either going to take a massive loss, or we saw this need and so we created this program. But yeah, it definitely that is a real issue. And then on the other side of that too, with people with that concern, like, oh, I don't know. this and that. Typically, we'll try to talk them out of it then. We want them to want the program. We don't want to talk them into the program because
Mm.
a lot of people like you and I, you know, full-time RV is there's like the name of my RV is the mobile memory maker. There's a lot of memories in my RV. We circled the
Yeah.
country several times, but I'm an entrepreneur, so I can detach myself pretty quickly from something. But people that aren't entrepreneurial minded and they've got this RV, especially we get a lot of older couples, like all of a sudden they buy a four or $500,000 RV, and then 3 weeks later the husband gets Parkinson's or whatever the case is. It's
Yeah.
like, we can't RV no more. And they go back to work wherever they got it from. It's like, yeah, we'll take it back, but you need to bring $80,000 and the RV. So there's a right fit for people in this program when it comes to that on the RV owner side. Or if it's a travel trailer, that's fairly standard. Heck,
Mhm.
I have 2017s that they bought them brand new from the dealership and they're still in our program.
Wow. Yeah, the value does go down pretty quickly, but I know what we were looking for. My husband's family, they flip cars. So talk about real estate, right?
Oh, yeah.
And my sister's husband's family does the same thing. They own a body shop. They flip cars, and he actually flips RVs as well. And so our families on both sides are very experienced with cars and RVs and all of that. And one of the things that really caught us when we were looking at it was like, that old Buick that grandma was driving, and she's got it in the garage, and it's got low miles, but it's ugly because it's from 1987. And you just buy this ugly old car. I think they call that the Dave Ramsey car, right? Where you
Uh-huh.
paid cash for it, but it just keeps going. And that's really what we were looking for in the RV industry. So when we purchased this one, I think it's a 2007, they bought it new, an older couple in their 60s already, bought it new, and they probably paid 65, I think it was like 65 something MSRP the year that it came out. And we picked it up these years later for like 15 grand. And I'll tell you, like, we've been hard on it. Like, we're trying really hard to be gentle on it. We don't have little kids or anything. It's a nice, well-built RV. We basically went to the RV repair shop and said, "What RVs do you never see in here? Or if they are in here, it's just for something incidental. Like, which ones do you just really stand by?" They all said the same couple of models. You hear the same model over and over again, the same 4 models. So we just went on a search for something like that. So we're actually really happy with the purchase, but I've been wondering about the RV industry over since COVID, really. So, what have you been seeing in the newer rigs and in the RV industry as it kind of ebbs and flows through this? Are we going to be remote work? Are we not? Because purchasing an RV is it's a huge commitment, and knowing that you have some sort of plan or some sort of business plan to be able to make this purchase a blessing instead of we don't want our RVs to be like our boats, where the best day we second best day is the day we sell it.
Yeah.
So, how have you been seeing these trends in the RV industry, especially with the return to office?
Yeah, I mean, during COVID, it was crazy. Right when we first shut down, I was on Facebook and I saw this article that said top things CEOs wish they would have done during 2008. And it was lay off
Mhm.
staff sooner. So I went and laid off
Mm.
all my staff. I'm like, hey, I've never been through something crazy like this. Lay off all my staff. So I did. And all the rentals, everything stopped for several weeks. And then all of a sudden, everything hit right back on. Like everybody started hitting the road. I was doing mobile quarantine units. People, because
Oh,
right when this
wow.
happened, right, it's like going right into winter, and now everybody, or no, sorry, going into spring, everybody's trying to get grandma and grandpa from Florida back up to New York and this and that, but they don't want on the fly and this and that. So they're like renting RVs and mobile quarantine units. And then I got a huge power plant in Michigan that wants to quarantine all their engineers. So we get this huge rental. I went and bought 2 multi units with cash with just that
Mm.
off that one booking that took place. But these RVs, they're cranking them out of the factories. Like, I have brand new RVs
Wow.
going out on a rental, and, like, the air conditioner is even hooked all the way up. Like, the air conditioner's not I didn't know it until the renters, like, they're plugged in and they're like, "Yeah, the air conditioner isn't working," so we send a tech out there. Like, they literally did not plug the wire harnesses together. Like, that's how quick
Mm.
brand new refrigerators aren't working. I had a warehouse full of those air conditioners that vent out the windows
Yeah.
because I couldn't even get a replacement for a roof AC unit. It was like a 6-month back order. So I had college refrigerators, I had pop-up canopies, I had window vent AC units. I had every like fix to every problem because my big model was like, yeah, we don't cancel a rental. Like, we're not going to ruin somebody's vacation on something that's really minor. Because at the end of the day, when
Mhm.
you send somebody out camping, you're barely in the camper unless it's raining. Like you're outside, you're in a campfire, and you're doing bike ride, and you're on the lake, you're doing all the outdoorsy things. That's one of the things we love about this lifestyle, right? Is being outdoor.
Mm.
So we had fixes for every problem. And now the big problem is everybody's got an RV and nobody's RVing to the extreme that they were during COVID.
Mhm.
I mean, I take that back. RVing is still insanely popular. I mean, there's state and federal parks going up all around the country. There's this camping is in full swing, but the mass of people that bought RVs, a lot of people, they're back to normal life where they're not using them as much. Like you said,
Mhm.
that major investment, like people didn't think that through long term.
We really, really loved remote work. All right. And so when my husband's company at the time, when he had a W-2, said, y'all don't have to come back in if you don't want to, we still lived 20 minutes from the office. And he would only go in if they had something where they were serving lunch. And so we really got spoiled by this remote lifestyle and got hit a bit by the bus. And at that point, I wasn't thinking RV because my husband's like, it's going to be underneath that RV fixing it all the time. Me, I'm going to be the one fixing it. And so he didn't really want one. But then as soon as we hit the road, we backpacked for 3 months and then we got back in our van after that. And he's like, I can't do this. We got to buy an RV. And I said, you realize you're going to be the one that's fixing it all the time. And he says, yeah, but I don't have a house. I never mow. I don't have to weed. And the house always has a leaky faucet or gutters that needs cleaned or something like that. And he says, it's actually less work than a house. And so we've really been enjoying the full-time lifestyle, even though it has challenges like you said, our teenagers are like, when are we buying a house? Because they're all stuffed in here. You made a comment before we started recording about how you're full-time with your kids, but now you're back at the sticks and bricks because you have a teenage daughter. And how did you put it? There's no RV big enough to fit her anymore.
Yeah, we had a 44-foot Grand Lodge 42 DL, the biggest one you can get. But we always say as soon as she's out, as soon as she's out doing her thing, we'll be right back in an RV. I mean, we actually just went RVing a week ago in my 9-year-old Noah. He's got his bed all set up and he's just laying there and he's like, it's good to be back,
Yeah.
Dad. And I'm like, oh, it is good to be back.
Yeah. There's something about the simplicity of the lifestyle. It has a lot of drawbacks. I don't want to paint this in an overly rosy way, but I have really just enjoyed owning less stuff and being in charge of less stuff, having less stuff to clean. And even when it does get dirty, I don't seem to mind as much because it feels like we're camping. It's temporary, even though I know it's not temporary. We live here. I got to clean it. There's something about that slower pace of life on the psychology that has been really fantastic for mental health. Can you tell us a little bit about how your wife went from I'm leaving, I don't like this thing to living full time in an RV and how she kind of came around to that lifestyle a little bit? Because now you say when your kids are a little bit older, you would both like to do it again. What does that transition look like?
It's actually interesting how we decided to hit the road the first time. We actually had some kind of traumatic happen in our family. I'm full open, like my life is wide open, just so you know. So one of our kids was molested by a family member, and we literally were like in this run, like we just ran. We're leaving. So we literally, that's why this started. It was beautiful. I mean, just being together, traveling together, the freedom that we got, being able to just be in this controlled environment to help our child through this. And honestly, our child doesn't even remember it anymore. Like literally, they got so healed and we caught it. We had some great pastoral staff and people that surrounded us and we were able to just work them through it. And that's literally how it started, our full-time adventure. And then it was just, yeah, like you said, just the freedom. I mean, I can't even tell you the number of campfires that we've had. It's just a beautiful thing, right? And now we're back in the house since March. So heck, 10 months, whatever that is. And we've had maybe 3 campfires. We just had one several weeks ago and I'm sitting out there like, this is amazing. Why don't I have more campfires at home? There's just something that shifts. It's like when you get out of the house into an RV. And it's funny because we were during our homeschool, we were going through this curriculum and it was like, and we were studying nomads. My daughter Isabella, that's 7, she's like, well, aren't we're nomads, right? Like, aren't we nomads? I'm like, yeah, we are nomads. Exactly. That's what we were. And she still is confused why we've been in the house this long. Because literally, we've been doing this. We did that for 5 years. She's 7 years old. So she literally,
Mhm.
and we were such so into it. Like, we didn't have a car seat. Like we're like back to like we were as kids in the 80s. You didn't have a seatbelt and a car seat and all that stuff. You don't need that. She's sitting on daddy's lap while I'm driving down we went to the Hoover Dam and we pull up and there's like the police that come in or the Hoover Dam police on the regular police. And he comes in, he's looking around, he's like, hey, I'm not gonna say nothing, but you don't have any car seats, you don't have he's like, I get it, like I'm cool with it, but the next stop, you might get a ticket there. You were like, oh yeah, that's a good point. We should probably
Yeah.
name a little bit, you know.
I don't know if you've seen the research, and I wish I had looked this up before we talked because I would love to be able to cite the research to you. But I came across some studies a few years ago when we were looking into family. It wasn't even family. It was like what makes adults feel like they're winning at life, the highest satisfaction or happiness ratings, where they feel like they're making enough money and they're happy with their family and they're just doing well. And what the common ties between those people were. And the two things that came out that were really surprising, there's two different studies. One showed that family history or genealogy and being aware of one's past and the past stories of the grandparents and great grandparents showed a huge amount of translation into life satisfaction. Like my ancestor went through this hard thing, and now I'm going through this hard thing. I come from that hardy stock. I come from, and then it helps people get through it. And the second thing from another study that I saw, the families who were the most bonded and reported the most family happiness ties even into adulthood, what did they do together? Camping. It was number 1 on that survey, camping. And so I don't think I really realized at the time how powerful these kinds of experiences are that you described, like the campfire. What is it about the campfire? I have no idea. When we first bought our house that we ended up remodeling, and we couldn't really live in it the first year we were there. It was in just really rough shape, no kitchen. We campfired out at least once a week because I got to feed these people dinner. And it
Yeah.
became just this beautiful family experience that when we got the kitchen back together and moved back into the house and we kind of stopped campfiring because it makes your hair smell bad. I couldn't take it anymore. I was like, my hair always smelled like campfire, and that's really why we stopped doing it. But it really did make a difference in our family bonding. Have you found that to be something that you've been able to recapture, not being in the RV, even if you're out in your own yard campfiring?
Yeah, it definitely did. It brought us right back to that moment of sitting around a campfire and poking at it and just all the fun things of being around a campfire. It's amazing. And two, it makes me think of like how many ever years ago, like the fire was like the central location in like a tribe or a village or this or that, right? Like, but the fire was always going too. Like there's always things being cooked and this and that. Yeah, it's just that is very powerful. I was actually thinking I've been wanting to get a tattoo for like forever, but I could never. My wife got a tattoo in college and she really regretted it. So I've been like
Mm.
really thinking through this methodically. And last week when we were at our fireside retreat, we're sitting around a fire and I thought, I want to get a flame. That's what I want, a tattoo of a flame because it just connected so many dots for me. And now talking,
Mhm.
it didn't even connect this dot. So we're talking about right now, like the fire and traveling with the family. So Laura was like my company and like the fire inside of you as an entrepreneur. Cause we know if you like you go through the fire as an entrepreneur, you go through the fire in
Mhm.
life and marriage and just what the fire represents in the Bible, and just so many things. I'm like, I know my tattoo finally. I'm getting a fire tattoo on myself. So yeah, so powerful.
So many good analogies. Fire really speaks to a lot of things. I want to talk a little bit more about your faith journey as well. But before we get into that, I want to give you a little prep that that's coming down. But I wanted to talk a little bit about homeschooling. When I first started real estate investing, I wanted to start putting out content because I knew I wanted to raise capital from the very beginning, but I couldn't really talk about real estate because I didn't know what I was doing. And so I took the advice of what could you speak on for 45 minutes with no preparation. And for me, after thinking about it for a while, I thought, well, homeschooling, I could go on about homeschooling for a long time because we, I don't know, maybe 10 years at that point. And so I came up with the article series idea about homeschooling and entrepreneurship and how the time freedom and freedom to kind of do your own thing, think outside the box that came along with homeschooling then allowed me to open up my mind and be more outside the box with things like entrepreneurship and then eventually investing. And now the way that we're living right now, a lot of that really rests on the back of homeschooling. And so, have you found a homeschooling to have been more transformative than you realize, maybe not just with the way you educate your kids, but about the lifestyle options that it's given you? Have you seen that kind of leak into other areas of your life in the same way?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, when we started homeschool, I'd always wanted a homeschool for some reason. I don't know why. And when my wife and I were dating, I'm like, yeah, I want to have 5 kids and we're going to homeschool. She's like, okay, well, I want kids and there's no way I'm homeschooling because literally her 4 sisters are all teachers. Her mom was a
Mm,
parapro. Like, and so when we started homeschooling, at first it was like, we basically just bought a curriculum and like, so it was like we were still doing school. We were just doing it at home because we were following this curriculum. But then as our kids
yeah.
started to show us kind of the, like, one of my kids has dyslexia. I say had, my wife says has, I don't know. Dyslexia, and then another kid, it's this and that. And as we start to see like their gifts and like what brings them alive and what they have no desire or no skill in, like it was really cool to be able to kind of shift their what we have them do on a daily basis. And then to like bring the entrepreneurship into it, I mean, that just is phenomenal because I'm constantly teaching our kids about, hey, this is what it looks like to work for somebody your whole life. This is what it looks like for people to work for you. Like, who do you want to be? And then just showing them to find like money making activities all around. Like, literally, I come home yesterday. Oh, I went to lunch with somebody. I come home and my 7-year old, which we live in the middle of the country, I come home and she's setting up a lemonade stand. She's like, yeah,
Yeah.
man, I'm setting up a lemonade stand. And I'm like, we have a gate when we live out across the street from us. I'm like, "Wow, honey, that's great, but maybe bring it to the co-op tomorrow because I don't know how many customers you're gonna get today." But so, yeah, that's so much fun to, like, intertwine the entrepreneur. My 13-year-old, he's got a hog, 18 egg-laying chickens. He's about to buy meat chickens. Like, he is all entrepreneur. I'm gonna take this much, dad, and this is going for this and that, and then I'm gonna turn around and buy this cow from the dairy farm who I talked to, and so his schooling is, like, all around that now. And too, with his
Mhm.
gifts and stuff, like, he gets out of more school than he does because we know he's gonna do hunting and fishing, guiding, and that kind of stuff, like, that's his calling, and he's constantly getting invited by these older guys that just love his passion for the outdoors and fishing and how much he knows. Like, literally, he has his own deep fryer that he bought with his own money. So he will catch a fish, clean it, and cook it, and he makes his own homemade smoked fish dip. Kid's
Wow.
15 years old, and so we can shift all of his learning around his gifts and his talents, and
Mhm.
that's just, yeah, it's amazing homeschooling and just being able to plug in the lifestyle. Plus, you see their bents and traveling, right? It's like, oh, you're passionate about this? Cool, let's go experience it. Like I'm passionate about
Yeah.
Kentucky Fried Chicken. So what?
Yeah.
So one of our trips, I'm like, we're going to the original KFC in Kentucky. It's funny. My
Yeah.
wife
Oh,
always has her planned agenda, and then I'm like, yeah, that's cool, honey, but we're actually headed to KFC in Kentucky right now. That's much more important than visiting the capitals. There's some real history here.
my kids love
Mm.
video games big time.
Uh-huh.
And one thing that we've been able to do is to be able to pull them into, like, allow them to love the video games and play the video games, and then be drawing the parallels from those video games into their homeschool experience and their traveling experience, because otherwise it would just they'd just be playing video games all day. Right. And so we've been able to get a little bit more creative about how we handle that situation for us, where we feel like we can kind of craft their desires and what they really like doing, which, is video games. And now they do digital art, they create music. And we've really been able to see kind of a blooming there of the things that they're interested in doing. And for a while, some of them thought that they wanted to work for other people. Like, I just want to get a job and just get my paycheck and come home so I can do whatever I want. Right. But as adults, they really been struggling with that. And so their ability to fall back into entrepreneurship and say, so it's nice for my kids to be able to fall back on entrepreneurship, even though they thought that that wasn't a good lifestyle for them. When they got out there and tried, they realized, like, this is a better fit for them. And so the freedom that the bug we get for the financial freedom bug, it seems like it leaks over into the rest of our lives. So what came first for you? The entrepreneurial journey, the homeschooling journey, the faith journey, the RV journey? Like, which one actually kind of began and fed the other freedom the freedom causes?
Well, remember earlier I said the first legal business I had? Like I said earlier too, I believe you're born with the entrepreneurial bug inside of you. Or there's people, I forget what the name of that book is, where it's like it's an older book where people like will start a business because maybe they see something their boss is doing wrong and they think they can do it better and they realize they have no clue about running a business. I'm talking about, I can't think
Yeah.
of the name of that book. But anyway, there's a scripture that says the gifts and callings of God are without repentance. Well, that was one of my first businesses. I was actually a drug dealer. I had several drug homes that I oversaw. And so my entrepreneurial journey came all the way back to fifth grade and on and on and on. I had all kinds of different random businesses and stuff. But then I started walking with the Lord in 2003. And literally, the job I was working at as a W 2 employee, my buddy Skip that led me to the Lord, we prayed right there at the time clock. So 2 days before that, I'm out on the road working, getting high with their coworkers. 3 days later, I'm coming into work, a new person. Like, literally one thing, like, they saw this immediate transformation happen inside of me. So fast forward a couple years, I'm now one of the top managers, supervising over 30 people. And I actually, which is really an interesting transition, all this happened. Well, then one day, main boss called me into his office and he said, "Hey, why are you questioning his nephew about his faith?" He said, "Why are you questioning my nephew about his faith?" Because I started doing little Bible studies with the high school kids and college kids that would come and work part time. And this kid brought a scripture home and his mom didn't like that. And so then all of a sudden now my boss, who saw me come up through the ranks and all this radical transformation, I was one of his top employees. Now all of a sudden he doesn't like me no more. And so he has it out for me. Well, and this is, yeah, there's so many crazy stories in there. I'll try to stay to the point. So literally my brother-in-law, my best friend since third grade, who I did a lot of my crime with BC days, he sees all this radical transformation happen in me. He marries my sister. I catch him doing time card fraud. So here I am now at this pivotal, like, oh my gosh, I've got to call him to the carpet on this. So literally, we get in this huge argument. It's early in the morning, it's foggy. I just walk away from him. F-650, 30-foot bed on it is coming across our yard. I didn't see it in the fog and I get hit by it. So I'm literally knocked unconscious. And my boss didn't like me no more, tried using that as a reason to get rid of me. It didn't work. The workers' comp people saw through it. Fast forward a couple weeks later, I'm literally at work. And sorry, this story. There's so many awesome things that happened here. So forgive me if I'm ranting on, but so I'm at work. The main boss who wanted to get rid of me, his brother, who was the second in charge, I had gone to the Philippines on a mission trip. I saw a blind person get their sight. Like, I saw some amazing things. So my faith and all this stuff is through the rough. Literally, the day I got fired, God told me, "You're getting fired today." I went to my boss and said, "Hey, guess what? I'm getting fired today." And he's like, "Dude, you're crazy, man. You keep telling me all these crazy stories, this and that." And he's so blind. I'm like, "No, I'm getting fired today." Literally within minutes, I got called up to the human resource office. The guy, Rick, that had to fire me is apologizing because he saw all this stuff happen inside my life and why they were firing me. He's like, "Gar, here's a severance package. You sign the paperwork right now and you get it, or you don't. Michigan is a right to work state. We're eliminating your position." So I signed the package, took my severance, go to my wife, work. She was a manager at a bank. And I'm like sitting in the lobby. I'm all excited because I'm like persecuted for my faith. I thought it was like super cool. And she gets home at night. I'm like, "I got fired for my faith, honey. That's so awesome, blah, blah, blah." She's like, "No, that's not awesome. We have bills to pay." And we had been trying to get pregnant for 6 months with no luck. Well, right after I get fired, she finds out she's pregnant. So fast forward, that kind of shoves me into my entrepreneurial journey, like literally. And so I start the credit counseling business and one thing leads to the next. So did I tie all those in? My faith, my entrepreneurial, my what was the other my RV. Yeah. So that's there's so many cool stories around all that. It's hard to encapsulate all of them, but yeah. So anyway, I'll stop there. Go ahead.
No, no, thank you for sharing that. I think with people who really walk their talk, I say you can't separate business and personal. And then I always have the caveat, at least not the kind of people I want to do business with. Who you are at work is the same person you are at home. You may just have a little bit different style, but that's still you, right? And I find that the entrepreneurial investing financial freedom lifestyle journey requires us to transform many areas of our lives. And so that's why I really wanted to ask you about your faith journey. I have guests on the podcast who will talk about who they kind of nod to a faith journey, but I've really never gone down that road with a guest before. Your story, it's really fascinating because when people make jokes about partners in crime, they
Right.
don't normally mean actual crime, and your turnaround is very impressive in how it can impact every area of your life. You really can't contain contain that. Now, I personally don't talk about my faith journey very much for a couple of different reasons. But at the same time, I feel like I can't separate out my background or my faith with the way that I do business and the way that I raise my children, the way that we live our lives, and the freedom is a common theme that goes through it, the freedom to be able to make our own decisions and to live
Yes.
our lives in accordance with our guiding values and our guiding principles. So thank you for sharing that story with me. I know it can be a little bit of a sensitive topic for people, but I appreciate your willingness to share that part of your life and how that's impacted so many other things that you've done.
Yeah, it really about 8 months ago, God really put it heavy on my heart that as I was really trying to search, like, what is my purpose? Outside of preparing my kids to fulfill their purpose, that's my main purpose. My other purpose is equip and encourage Christian entrepreneurs. And so God has really drilled that in like, Gar, walk in that purpose. I'll take care of the rest. And he really has with my credit counseling journey. Even I remember, so I started this credit counseling company and I started it in 2008. Like I opened the phone book and I started calling mortgage companies because that was what I was going to do is help people get ready for mortgage. I didn't realize every mortgage company was going out of business. I'm like, what the, but the business was slowly growing. And then I had this company come to me that was a competitor. They offered to purchase me. And they're like, Gar, you'll be W-2, you'll have health insurance, you'll have benefits, you'll have this and that. And I said, okay, well, let me pray about that and everything. And they said, no, has nothing to do with prayer. This is safety and security for your family. This is and keep it separate. They're basically saying, like, and I said, no, I need to pray about this. And I didn't have peace about it. Literally 1 week later, company was raided by the FBI and my competition in my town was shut down.
Mm.
Like, how wild is that?
Yeah. Yeah, and that they told you to keep it separate, that this
Yeah.
is not a thing together. It's just not possible. And sometimes I don't know if you've noticed this when you go to like an entrepreneurial mastermind. So the masterminds that we're in, they'll say things like, "Well, we're going to improve several areas of your life. We're going to do your faith, your fitness, your finances, your philanthropy, your family, your friends, things like that." And this is a very common theme. And I find myself sitting there thinking, none of this stuff can be separated. None of it can be separated. In fact, we're more productive when we don't separate it. And I'll give you an example. You're in an RV with your kids, homeschooling, and maybe you're doing some Bible study that day, or you're out in nature talking about God's creations. You're doing all of those things at the same time. And the more you're able to combine what you're working on, the more productive you can be because you're now a dad homeschooling, talking about God while you're out there running your business and talking to people about this opportunity. So let's throw another F into the mix here. This was not planned. It's super cheesy. Tell us about the franchise opportunity on this one.
Yeah. So the franchise opportunity, so it started with, I never knew it would turn into this. And what, one more thing to kind of comment on what we were talking about. I love this saying by one of my mentors, and it's all work works. It either works on us or it works for us. So that's one of the cool things about life, the entrepreneurial journey, all these things. It's like it's always working on us or it's working for us. So there's some work we'll do as entrepreneurs where we'll see a result financially,
Mhm.
or we're going to see a result inside of us internally. Like it's going to help us to grow in our character or our trust or faith or this or that or talking. So whatever it is. So I always love to encourage entrepreneurs on that. Like everything that you're doing, it's going to benefit you somehow. And a lot of times in the business world, we're always looking like, okay, what does this do for numbers? What does this do for numbers? What does this do for numbers? But when you're an entrepreneur and you're on the entrepreneurial journey, it's not just about the numbers. It's about the
Mhm.
whole picture, like you were saying, with tying everything together, right? Like when you can tie all the things together of you can bring math and you can say, oh, well, here's math and how it works practically for a budget at this, and here's math, and this is how it works when you sow into the kingdom of God, and here's math and this is how it works when you're figuring out a return on stuff. It's like it just brings it alive for
Yeah.
kids. And so many kids like it's so segmented that all of a sudden a kid goes into college and all of a sudden they feel like they've been duped because like everything was so segmented and separated. And then they get one college professor who tells them that God isn't real or whatever the thought, and their whole world comes crashing down. But when it's so intertwined through the whole journey, it's like, yeah, no, that doesn't sit with me. And that was this franchise thing for me was literally I started it, how I shared I started it, and I started adding campers. And so I went and set up an LLC, which a smart entrepreneur does, right? Like, all right, we're at LLC stage here. There's money rolling in. Time to set up an LLC. And it was Michigan Camper Rental. And then it started scaling and scaling. And then I was in a Facebook group And in the Facebook group, this guy was in the Upper Peninsula, of Michigan. He's like, wow, that's really cool. I'd like to do that. I was like, all right, well, how about I teach you how to do it for free, but you let me document the journey, document it
Mm.
all. And he's like, yeah, that sounds good. Let's do it. He's a laid back Youper. He's like, yeah, whatever, man.
Yeah.
So it was perfect. He was super patient, laid back with me. And we put together his process. And I thought, man, I've got a framework here now. I've got some documentation and a little bit of systems. I thought, well, I'm going to sell a business in a box. So I created a business in a box. It was $995, a business in a box, and I'll show you how to do it. And then it kind of went to the next level because we ran into this problem where people had jobs. Like they had to go to
Yeah.
their job during the day. I'm like, what? You got a job? I'm like, don't worry, I'll figure out a solution for that. How about if we handle like your inquiries and your billings and your contracts and paperwork? Like we'll be your office and then you just be the boots on the ground. So you just do some of the boots on the ground stuff. We'll be your office, we'll be your staff. So we figured out that problem that they had a job. And then we had our first person that found us out of state in Pennsylvania. And this lady, Tammy, she's stay-at-home mom. She had just moved from Florida to Pennsylvania. And she's like a stay-at-home mom now. She was a teacher. She's, well, she had that bug. She's like, how can I make some money? Like, I don't want to just sit at home and be a mom. That's great. I want to do all that, but I want to make money too. I want to hang out with adults too and make money. So she found me and partnered with me. And we're like, okay, well, now we can't be Michigan camper rental anymore because now we're in Pennsylvania too. So we rebranded to the Camper Connection. Well, then fast forward a couple of years, we've got 10, 12 locations. And literally, and this actually during COVID. And so another real raw share our faith journey. COVID hit. I'm an extrovert. I can't be as extrovert as I normally was. And so my wife and I literally just hunkered down. We were in Okeechobee at this KOA campground. It's the largest KOA in the country. And we literally just started with the people who were there. We started partying a bunch, literally drinking a ton. I'm sure there's no other Christians out there that did this, but we
Yeah.
started like drinking a ton. But we were really good at doing it because we weren't like drinking and driving. I wasn't like beating my wife or like yelling at my kids. Like I was a very good drunk. I was very responsible. But what happened, and I didn't actually realize what was happening, is I got very passive in my business.
Mm.
Tammy actually sold her location in Pennsylvania and she became me. So I literally was completely able to step away from the business. I stepped away from the business so much that I literally just learned 8 months ago. I lost over $250,000 in 2022. That's how stepped away I got. And and I was so in my own world. It's living a lifestyle that I was even selling some of my real estate to fund my other business. So it was like,
Mm.
oh, no big deal. I just made 80 grand on selling that property I bought right when COVID hit. I just sold it for double the money. Like it's all good. And then finally it kind of all came crashing down. Funny. Actually, it's funny. I got COVID again in May and this round of COVID like really hit me mentally. Like I was having crazy nightmares and dreams. I actually called my friend who's a psychologist. I'm like, dude, I'm like, I'm having suicidal thoughts. Like this is crazy. And he said, yeah, it's actually very common. I've had many of my patients with this round of COVID. They're having
Huh.
mental attacks and dreams and this and that. Well, not as good as he is. He used dark moment to actually wake me up. And literally, I just woke up in fear and I'm like, what's going on? And I called my accountant. I'm like, I need you to audit my books. Like, I just, it was all fear based. Like, I need this and that. And that's what opened my eyes. Like, holy crap. Like, I'm about to lose everything. Like, I'm not doing good. And then, man, just total transformation. We quit drinking. And one thing led to the next. And that's when God really hit me like, actually, that wasn't true. That was more during COVID. God was like, this needs to be a franchise. So I did that, but it was very passive.
Mm.
And the
Mhm.
last 8 months have been just insane. Like, literally, we had 10 franchises sign up in October, and it's so cool how it happened because I basically got back in tune with my gifting and my calling and my purpose, and I started crafting my message. Even like us getting on the call here, like, we didn't know anything about each other really, a little bit. God is just lining up all these divine conversations and connections of a podcast I did 2 weeks ago. Me and this girl sat on there and cried for about half of it. Like, we're just sharing our stories and I'm crying. And then she'd share her story and I cried for her. And then it was just, it, and I know there's so many people that I resonated with COVID and I call it my COVID comeback story. Like
Mm.
literally, I got so passive in my business. And two, there's so many people who lost their businesses during COVID. Like, I'm so thankful I didn't. Like,
Yeah.
but there's entrepreneurs out there who they lost their business during COVID. And the SBA says 50% of first time businesses fail. 80% of entrepreneurs don't try again. They don't start a
Oh,
second business. So
yeah, I
that's
heard
crazy
that.
because, right, the fear of failure is real. We don't
Yeah.
want to fail our spouse. We don't want to fail our kids. We don't want to fail ourselves. Fear is a very real thing on many different levels, especially as an entrepreneur. I mean, talk about fear times 10. You're literally saying, all right, fear, let's go. Like, so yeah, did that answer your question? How I became a franchise?
Yes. It's so interesting how everything is so intertwined. We really can't escape it. I had an experience, well, it was probably 2 years ago. So, it was like the new year and somebody said, "What's your word of the year? Have you heard of this before?" Where you have to distill everything down to a single word. And for 2 years, my word had been freedom. Then I put it on a little rock and I carried the rock and stuck that's my word, right? And I heard somebody say something about how I needed to be how they needed or something, they needed to be more curious and playful, and the word playful just hit me like a ton of bricks, and I realized, why do I want freedom? Why is freedom even important to me? Is it because I just wanna be like a Scottish guy with my face painted blue screaming freedom because I'm being oppressed? Well, I'm not being oppressed, I live a great life. I have a great family, we've got good income, we're just like, what are we trying to escape from? What is all this freedom that I'm always saying that I want? It was almost making me dark and negative and never happy with what I had, and I had this experience where that word playful hit me hard, and I don't know if I was listening to a Tony Robbins thing or what, right?
Where I heard
But
Tony
is that
Robbins,
it's
exactly what I thought about. Playful. That was
curious and playful,
great
and I thought,
change.
"Okay, you know what? Playful is my new word of the year," and it's been
Yeah.
my word for the last 2 years because the only reason I even want freedom is so I can play more, so I can have more fun because otherwise, I mean, what is it? I'm having fun running a business, I'm having fun being an investor, I'm having fun running this show, I'm having fun doing all this stuff because we're able to bring this attitude of playfulness in it, and it leaks into every other area of my life, this sense of playfulness. And, my daughter told me recently, she, Mom, one of the things I like best about you is how no matter what situation we're in, you always find a way to laugh." And I thought,
Oh,
"Really?" My other daughter said, "I'm always stressed out." So this playful thing is definitely going better for me, and just being able to this whole RV lifestyle, again, has been about playing more, about being more available. I'm not always cleaning a house or going the yard or any of that. It's just
yeah.
like today, my daughters were off visiting some new friends of theirs. My husband drove them because I was filming a different podcast, and I had a few minutes in between, and I went out there. My 11-year-old was the only one here, and I said, "Hey, this RV park we just bought, it has a golf cart. You wanna go learn how to drive?" She's like, "Yes." So we jumped on the golf cart, drove the golf cart around for an hour, and just being able to do that in the middle of the day, and we drove her by this little spot where there are a bunch of logs. They took down a dead tree or something. And I said, "We should organize all these logs and make like a little fire pit over here, and we should do Fire Friday, where every Friday we get out our roasting sticks and have dinner out here." And I'm thinking to myself, like, "Oh, my hair is gonna stink so much." But we're gonna come out here, we're gonna play, and we're gonna have Fire Friday, and this is the kind of lifestyle that we're talking about. This is the kind of lifestyle that passive income and entrepreneurship have blessed us with, and it's just really a joy to have this conversation with you and have this like-minded experience where we're not separating our finances and our businesses from fun and family and fitness and faith because it all goes together. So, I appreciate you tying that together because people who try and separate it, I think it's just a source of stress. They feel like they can't fit everything in.
Yeah, it really does. And two, especially post COVID, that's what God has shown me about my role in this business. It's all about the vision, but in the community and the culture, like that's what people want. Like back all the way up to John in New Jersey. I was like, John, why did you decide to partner with us? Like he has a successful Amazon company. He did wholesaling successfully. He owned number two bounce university in the country. And he said, community. Because in our talks, we talk about, yeah, we do these biweekly Zooms and we have our face group and we do these meetups and it's community. It's, and that's the thing about RV, right? It's like, I always joke about it's funny, right? We work hard to get out of the trailer park and make a success of our lives. And then we end right back up in one. Why do we do that? It's community because when you, like my wife and I, years ago, house we had, we would do front yard cookouts. And man, it
Mm,
took us months and months and months to get people to come because nowadays you don't even hang out in your front yard. Like that's how
mm,
life used to be done was in the front yard. Now everything's we actually during COVID, we bought a house for about 5 weeks. It was an HOA, and I put a trampoline in my front yard to get the kids to come over so we could create community. And I got a letter from the HOA that said, while it's not a violation for you to have a trampoline in your front yard, several of our residents are concerned about the look that it's creating for the neighborhood. And we're like, all right, well, back in the RV, like we literally just left the house and put it up for sale and sat there for 3 or 4 months till it sold. Like because we were trying to fill that void inside of us that COVID created of creating community. We're like, well, we're gonna go buy a
yeah.
house and create a community and
Mhm.
because that's what we were created for. We were created for community and to do life together. And how cool is it to meet people at a campground, swap your stories and adventures and this and that, campfires and bike rides. And it's just, yeah, there's nothing
Yes.
better.
Yes, it's really been an interesting adventure for us, and we're on this fishing lake, so when we're driving the golf cart around today, we're actually next door to the public boat ramp, and so it's just packed with boats right now. The season is changing and people are just launching and having parties out here. They're all standing around and just laughing, and my daughter said, "What are they all doing over there?" I said, "Well, they're fishing. This is a public boat." She said, "They don't look like they're fishing." I said, "Oh, they're just hanging out. They're just having a good time." On
Yeah.
a Monday afternoon because they took the week off because the weather's good to go fishing. And so she's just seeing a different side of life out here and being able to just go fishing and play and have fun and people talk about how you can't do that. You gotta work, you gotta pay for it. You can't just be like that. But you found a really creative way to be able to integrate all of these competing demands into a lifestyle that's really working for you.
Yeah, it's been really cool. And there's just and I think that's gonna continue to be the way that America is moving with especially with AI coming into play and a lot of certain kind of jobs being eliminated. Like there's gonna create other opportunity for people to work remote and do things. And then like coaching programs and stuff, those are popping up everywhere. And like we were talking about Tony Robbins and challenges. We just did a 3-day challenge online the other day with a bunch of men. And yeah, just creative ways to generate income and yeah, this is a great one. We have W-2 employees that are in our program. I've got Kim in the Upper Peninsula I was telling you about. He still works full time as a prison guard, 60 hours a week. He loves it. We're partnered with him. We've got Dathan in Alabama that's a firefighter that he's finally getting ready to step out of that. He's at the tipping point now. He's got 44 RVs that he manages. And he does a
Wow.
couple big events with like Talladega and Bonneville. That's a cool thing too about real estate is we're not just sending families camping. Like it's a house on wheels. So on
Mhm.
our RV rental side, we do short-term housing, we do corporate events, we do NASCAR, we do music festivals. There's so many uses. Somebody's house has a fire, we could pull an RV right next side to it. The insurance company will pay for it while they rebuild. So there's so many avenues to utilize these RVs. It's really cool.
Yeah, we really been enjoying, like, this lake lifestyle because we started to think like, "Okay, well, if we're gonna be here for 6 months, we might wanna leave behind a lake house that we'd love to buy some more RV parks right around where we are, so we can have a little bit of a broader presence, integrate some of the property management, and maybe have a lake house that we can live in for the next couple of months and then leave it behind. We do a rent to own on our actual RV, but then have the lake house that we can do Airbnb or something like that. So we've been driving through these lake neighborhoods, just checking out like the real estate in the local area. And it's like, do you want a mobile home? Do you want a house? Do you want an RV parked here? Some people are just doing tiny homes. I mean, it's been fascinating to see like, well, we could just park our RV right next to our tiny home
Yeah.
and there's a space there, and while a lot of people would hear that and be like, "Ugh," like, I mean, don't you want, like, a regular house, and didn't you grow up in suburbia and all of this? And I think, I don't know, you kinda divorce your mind from all of the trappings of life, and you could have that or not, and just being able to it's not even thinking outside the box anymore, it's just like, "That looks interesting. Let's maybe we could try that for a while," and just not having to think about what it's gonna look like to the neighbors or to everybody online. I mean, it really just changes the way that you look at your entire life.
Yeah. It's like a full circle, right? They say everything comes in a full circle. Let's go back a couple 100 years and people are traveling in tents and wagons. And then all of a sudden the industrial revolution, they start to build maybe these small little houses and then it goes to the next and the next and then cities pop up and now you're competing with the neighbors and now
Yeah.
everybody's sick of competing with the neighbors Yeah, it's like, okay, well, we're going back to a wagon, and they just make them a little nicer than they used to.
Yeah. No, they're a lot nicer than they they
That
used to
was
be.
funny.
It's and that's the I guess that's the freedom. We don't know what we're gonna end up doing. We have no idea. We're just looking at options and something will just make sense. Everything will come together. And, sometimes I feel like this whole RV park thing, it's too coincidental. Albert Einstein said that coincidences are God's way of staying anonymous. And
Mm,
there's so many coincidences that came together to bring us here right now managing this park while we're living in our RV and some of the stuff that we've been experiencing the last couple of months and the kids didn't really actually end up liking Florida and so it's just everything kind of came together and you see this beautiful plan laid out that you couldn't have planned better if you tried and so just learning to just go with the flow.
yeah. Yeah, Napoleon Hill says, "Life doesn't happen to you, life happens for you." And I think when you look at situations as they pop up, say, okay, what's happening here for me instead of like the victim of this is happening to me,
Mhm.
then you find out why and you find the beauty in all the things. Back to my with my childness first hitting the road. There's not saying that happened for us, but anything that happens in life can be used for the good. The amount of families, stuff that we've been able to encourage, give hope to, that yeah, we've been through the traumatic, but there
Mhm.
is life after that. You can recover. This isn't a life determining situation. And we've been through many of those.
And that's just such an amazing story because your ability to have the option, like you said, to just break free. And we talk about this a lot with, say, battered women who are financially stuck in the situation versus those who are not financially stuck in the situation. They may be still as emotionally bonded, but for whatever reason, they seem to be able to extricate themselves from the situation at a higher rate than those who are financially dependent. And so being able to say, like, hey, this isn't working. And we really need to do something radical so that we can either get out of a situation or heal from the situation. Having those options open to you is really what financial freedom and the passive income lifestyle is all about. And you have really embodied that. I think the part I like best about your story is that you didn't wait. You didn't sit around saying, "Oh, well, I'm not 100% financially free on all my rental income, so I just gotta keep doing the thing." You're able to take little pieces of this and integrate this lifestyle, this passive income versus active income, and just be working on several pieces of it. Again, integrating, you can't separate this up, and creating something as you're coming down the road where you're working on all of it kind of at the same time. So tell us what the next couple of years look like for you, because as much as we all want to say we want to work forever, I think a lot of us are in the 45 to 55, we start thinking about what's this going to look like when we have to start slowing down. So what does your passive income journey look like from now into the next, say, 15 to 20 years? Because entrepreneurs can never really quit, but we do kind
Yeah.
of slow down.
Yeah, exactly. So for us, it's continue to do what we're doing right now and then putting profits and money into real estate. More specifically, I'm starting to get into storage facilities because it
Mhm.
pairs perfectly in RV parks because that pairs perfectly with what we're doing. So we could have an RV park and then have 25 RVs set off on the side for rent. So
Yep.
it's integrating the real estate because at the end of the day, I think any successful entrepreneur knows real estate is it's the way to go. It's something tangible. It's like the stock market, all that stuff. Yeah, there's people who make money doing that, but I just that's not the plan. The stock market, in my mind, was created for the super elite wealthy that already have created a bunch of wealth outside of the stock market, and now they can play with it inside, or the W-2 employee who's on the 30-year plan to
Mhm.
retire.
Yep.
So that's our plan, and then I always used to think like my motto always used to be build, scale, sell. But
Mhm.
really, as I continue to walk in my purpose, and I got a really cool word for this year that God gave me. It's convergence. Convergence. Isn't that cool? I love that word. So anyway, convergence is like where two things come together to create a new thing. And that's really what's been happening with me in my business journey is focusing on serving Christian entrepreneurs in, in my business, and then the rest takes care of itself. And so as I do that, it's like now I'm like I don't ever want to sell. I want to continue to work myself out of the business so I have my
Mhm.
time, but I want to be able to step in and have 200 franchises where I can step in and do a Zoom and encourage people and share and inspire. It kind of like makes me think of Keller Williams, Gary Keller, like where he's steps in and encourages, but he's fulfilling other things that are on his heart. And like Solomon says, money answers all problems, which we know doesn't answer spiritual problems, but it answers many, many problems in this world. So we do missionary work and we want to continue to do that in money. Like we were just in Dominican and a couple weeks ago, and there was this little boy who got a bullet in his leg. And literally they went to the hospital. What they did at the hospital is they stitched his leg closed. They didn't take out the bullet because they couldn't, that would have been 200 American dollars. They stitched his leg closed. So we went there, met this boy, and like, "Well, 200, that's a no-brainer,
Yeah.
$200." So think of that on a larger scale of just when you go and you see needs, being able to meet those needs, not just your family and your lifestyle desires, but needs of the world around you. I mean, that's amazing. And you do that by creating multiple streams of revenue and passive streams that don't require you to physically do something. The money is doing the work for you instead of you working for the money.
I love how you have combined your real estate with your wheel estate, and and uh, a lot of our entrepreneurs are investors, are entrepreneurs, and they're taking the money that they're making in their successful business and deploying a portion of that to feed the business, but then another portion to feed the real estate portfolio because that's it's one of the few sources of truly passive income because somebody else is managing it for you. Like, we have investors here on this RV park that they don't ever see it. They read their quarterly report
Mhm.
and check their bank account because we just ACH the money over, and so it can be really truly passive if it's done correctly, and I like investing in established businesses and real estate projects because they cash flow. I've put too much money into tech startups, and who knows
Oh,
if those
yeah.
will right? They don't
There's a
cash flow.
huge move going on too. There's so many people that are retiring now and their kids
Right.
they just want the paycheck. They want nothing to do with the business. So there's so
Mhm.
many opportunities out right now to buy established businesses that have proven track record and financials. And yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
there's just opportunity everywhere. It's
Yep,
crazy.
and I just want the boring ones, cash flow, because we're kinda I'm we're not boomers, right? But
Uh-huh.
we're at that age, the Xers are now the new boomers, right? Like, we're at the age where we're like, "Just give me the boring cash flow, that's all I want."
Uh-huh. Yeah. That like that RV park, an existing business that's flowing. That's good boring money right there. That's great. Yeah. I love it.
Well, I really appreciate you coming on the show. I find the story to be fascinating. Like I said, I was really excited to meet you because I felt like we had so many things that we were crossing over on that we could educate the audience about with just the whole lifestyle aspect of it. Again, it's a lifestyle show with an emphasis on figuring out how to pay for the lifestyle that we design. A lot of people look at my lifestyle and they're like, "Ah, no, thank you. That's not for me." But I think that's the whole point is being able to have those choices and have the optionality of doing what works. Like you said, your wife didn't even like RVing. You had a big need and you were able to just say, okay, what needs to happen here? And that's really the freedom that I want to give the listener. And I appreciate you sharing your story and sharing your advice on how people can actually adopt that level of freedom and options into their own lives. And in your case, it wasn't so you could go off and be more playful, but at the same time, it was, because your family really needed to bond and heal from a pretty traumatic experience, and so that ability to be free and to go play was has been really transformative, I think, for you in a much bigger way than it has been for our family, but maybe some similar motivations to just think like, I wanna be able to do what we want, when we want, with who we want, where we want, and
Yeah.
that's really the driver that seems like it's working for you as well.
Yes. Yep. Exactly.
So, how can people get a hold of you after the show? And I always ask, most importantly, why should people get a hold of you after the show?
So people can get a hold of us at Fireside RV Rental Franchise.com is our website where you can go and learn about the franchise opportunity, or my name is fairly unique. So you can look me up on social media, Garr Russell. And the main reason why somebody would necessarily want to get a hold of me, get a hold of Fireside, really it's somebody that they're looking to fire their boss, and words like purpose and passion and family and legacy get you excited. So, like, you hear those words, you're like, purpose? Yeah, that gets me excited. Like, I'm at a W 2 job, or what you're, even if it is a W 2 job, what you're currently doing, you're like, I don't know. I just don't feel like there's much purpose. That would be a reason to get a hold of me to either learn more about the Fireside RV rental franchise opportunity, or honestly, to get my new book, my real estate story, because it's all about faith and failures and fun times and the entrepreneurial journey and what I call entrepreneurs. You might think you're an entrepreneur,
Yeah.
but you don't know. Read the
Huh?
book, and by the end of the book, you'll know because you'll either be super excited and nervous, or you'll go to your boss and ask for more hours because you want to work more.
Yeah, that's where a lot of our investors come from. They're like, "And actually, I don't really like this." And this is a perfect chance for me to plug our little club here. We meet every Monday night. People come into the club. They think they want to be a real estate entrepreneur. Some of them actually do. Some of them go off and they start their own business, and others are like, yeah, no thanks. Like, how do I just invest in your fund?" So riseclubcapital.com if you want to check out our free weekly meeting. It's basically a way for the average person to get involved in commercial real estate because when I first started, I didn't even really know that I could get involved at the level that I'm getting involved. And if you want to get some time on our calendar, go to partnerwithrise.com and you can talk to us whether you want to be an active real estate business operator or you just want to be a passive partner. We have options for both of you. So get in touch with Garr, please, at Fireside RV Rental Franchise.com. And Gar, I know I'm gonna be talking to you after the show because we got to figure out what we're gonna do. Our personal RV when we get to the point where we're ready to move out of it. How I would rather keep it and rent it. You got this asset. Like it's just not in me to just sell something. It's like a
Yeah.
house here. I
Yeah.
figure it out. So thanks so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, you're welcome. And hey, just to settle the debate at the beginning, we've got 12-pound largemouth bass here in Okeechobee. So
No, okay, so you had to go there, man. All right, so look up the averages. Okeechobee, the average is 4 pounds, but at Lake Fork, it's 6 pounds. So
really,
you are a bigger lake, though. You are larger. I will
I
say you.
digress and you win.
Yeah, but the averages, Lake Fork definitely taking the prize here,
Wow. Yep.
right?
Agree. Okay. I thought I was going to win just because I thought to bring it up at the end, but you were all ready. You set me up, Emma.
I'm ready. I'm ready. And listen to me, all proud of like a fishing lake when I don't even fish.
We're
But
entrepreneurs, so there's a little competitive inside of us.
yeah, I gotta know this stuff because like we own the park here where people want to come and fish and park here. So I gotta talk up the lake and how amazing it is. So you see
True.
the
Yeah,
different
that's true.
marketing. It's a marketing ploy.
Yeah. Yeah. Everything is marketing, one of my mentor says.
Yeah. All right. Thanks so much, Gar. We will be in touch and really excited to find out more about what you do. Call
Awesome.
after the show.